basically it's a box. We wanted to keep the interface as simple as possible to kind of concentrate more on the sounds that you make and how you make them. So a couple of things that we concentrated on was simple interface, causality. We wanted to have kind of a lot of cause and effect in how we use the instruments, so the kind of audience can see what the performer is doing, which is why we used the infrared sensor, because it's fairly obvious that you're kind of adjusting things, and the force sensor, because you know, you can see how much effort you're putting into it. And the kind of sounds that we're looking at with it are kind of, we've taken one sample, it's a 5-second sample, and we have it going through a few FFTs, so that we, it's kind of looking at microscopic sound, so we get down to kind of small kind of grains of the sound. It's not granular synthesis, but it's basically going through a phase vocoder, so that we can kind of take just tiny sections of the sound and slow it down, kind of manipulate it like that. So just seeing what you can do with one sound. How you generate the sound is once you kind of come into range with the IR sensor, it triggers an envelope so that the sound doesn't just come on and off. It ramps up to a certain point, and then where it'll sustain there. So it's basically an ADSR. It'll sustain there until you take your hand away again. When it picks up you leaving, it'll just kind of release, and there'll be decay in the note. So we wanted to make it kind of not just on-off, fairly close to what normal notes would sound like. It's in the kind of field of like an organ kind of sound. If it was in an orchestra, it'd be somewhere towards the back. It's not a lead kind of instrument. So what happens is we bring in our sample that goes through an FFT, and we adjust the playback rate there. So it's normally playing back at 1, and then we bring it down to anything down to -0.5. So we can completely freeze the sound as well. So this button here will completely freeze the sound. This controls, the infrared sensor controls the pitch. So once the sound is slowed down, it goes through another FFT process, which will control the transposition, depending on where your hand is in relation to this. So that's divided up. The scale of the infrared sensor is divided up into 8 different kind of semitones, which are an Aeolian scale. So they're in steps. They don't go gradually, because if it's to be something like an organ, then you have set notes. And then when it goes from there, the sound comes from that and gets spread out again into another pitch shifting, which brings it down an octave, and one which brings it up an octave. So you end up with 3 transposed sounds. This is the loop size. So the normal loop size is 220 frames. You can bring it down to anything down to 10 frames, just to completely shorten it up. This freezes a note kind of completely separately to this, so that you can have 2 hands going on, the same as if you played a chord with your left hand on a piano or an organ, and played kind of solo with your right hand. So you can completely freeze independently. This button basically works as a shift button. So when we hold this button down, this changes, the infrared sensor changes from controlling pitch to controlling the playback rate. And how it does that is when you press the button, it holds the value that you had for the pitch, it keeps that pitch, and then lets you change the playback rate. And then when you leave off the button, it holds that playback rate and lets you change the pitch. The force sensitive resistor then, when you press the shift button, it controls the loop offset, so basically the start point of the loop. So you can kind of run through different points in the loop and kind of get different sounds that are in there. The reason I've got reflective tape on my hand is it's not just aesthetic, it increases the range of the infrared sensor, picks up more. So once our sounds come out of those processes, they go through effects processes. So when we lose sight of my hand, it kicks in a delay effect that's not on when you're in there. So it turns on a delay, and see that that's the reason we've got these two RGB LEDs is just for visual feedback, so that you can kind of tell when you're performing kind of what kind of results you're getting. Because especially with an infrared sensor, there's no contact, you can't feel what's going on. It's not like a potentiometer or anything like that, so it's good to have feedback. Same with the force then. So that's shortening up our loop. We'll make it long again. Just to show you the shift button then. So that's going to keep my pitch. And now it's affecting the playback rate. I'll keep that playback rate. And affect your pitch again. Left hand then, this just freezes the note, and that has to decay again just to add a tail to the sound, so that's kind of like a chord kind of. The effects then are controlled by different parameters. There's the rate of change of the infrared sensor will control an overdrive effect. So the faster you change, the more attack there is to the note, because there's overdrive at the start. We've it mapped really low so that it doesn't kind of completely clip the sound. And then the loop size corresponds to the EQ of the notes. So the shorter we make the loop, we move the EQ. And then the freeze effects are similar. They're just mapped from rate of change of the force sensitive resistor. So that's affecting the EQ. On-off will turn the delay off, so when this note stops, the delay will turn on. And then if we go above a certain range with the force sensitive resistor, a second delay will turn on, a looping delay. So basically it's just kind of based around constant interaction with the instrument. It'll make no sound if you're not doing anything. And you have to, it requires a lot of control. One issue that we kind of had was the force, or the infrared sensor. The values it was giving us were kind of jumping around the place a bit, so we got rid of some of that by putting 2 capacitors into the circuit. We still had kind of this base range of, say if it's 0 to 600, the whole range, we were constantly getting like 90 if there was nothing there, so we had to cut the range and kind of scale it up again. From 90 to 600, change that to 0 to 1023, just to kind of get rid of the unreliable values that we can't really trust off it. But overall, it's kind of